February 24th, 1978, Northern California. 5 friends, Jack, Bill, Ted, Jack, and Gary, are driving home, buzzing with adrenaline after watching a college basketball game. They were laughing, likely talking strategy for the recreational basketball tournament they were scheduled to play in themselves the very next morning. But their families never heard the car pull into the driveway. Morning came, then afternoon, and the men simply didn't appear. Panicked families began calling the police, and search teams immediately started tracing the route the men should have taken home. At this early stage, nobody suspected anything sinister. Investigators assumed it was a straightforward problem, a flat tire or a minor weather delay on a familiar road. They expected to find the men waiting by their vehicle. But instead, the investigation hit a wall. Searchers found the group's car nearly 70 miles from their intended route, high up in the deeply remote, freezing wilderness of the Plumas National Forest. The immediate logical assumption was that the men had taken a disastrous wrong turn in the dark, driven up the mountain, and gotten helplessly trapped in the snow. But when police examined the vehicle, that theory collapsed. The car wasn't stuck. It was completely undamaged, perfectly operational, and the gas tank was far from empty. One of them could have easily turned the keys and driven back down the mountain. Yet investigators found footprints leading away from the tires. The 5 men had voluntarily opened the doors, stepped out of a safe, working vehicle, and walked directly into a freezing, deadly environment. Abandoning a secure, heated shelter to march into the icy darkness represents a total departure from basic survival logic. The environment they stepped into was merciless. The mountain air was thick with a freezing rain that quickly turned to solid ice, layering over deep snowdrifts in pitch-black darkness. As weeks dragged on, continuous winter storms hammered the mountains. Heavy snow buried their tracks and any other physical evidence, leaving search teams and desperate families entirely in the dark. When the weather finally cleared enough for a thorough search, the grim reality set in. The frozen bodies of Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, and Jack Hewitt were discovered scattered in the snow, not far from the logging road. While the brutal mountain temperatures ultimately claimed their lives, it was their own inexplicable decision to keep walking for miles instead of turning back to the car that sealed their fate. Months later, long after the snow began to melt, rescuers reached a remote Forest Service trailer nearly 20 miles from the abandoned car. Inside, they found Ted Wire, dead, lying in a bed. Forensic evidence proved that Ted hadn't died immediately upon arriving. He had survived inside that small trailer for weeks, slowly wasting away. This room was designed to keep people alive. It contained heavy blankets, matches, and a commercial heating unit just feet from Ted. It was stocked with enough military rations to sustain him for months. Yet investigators confirmed the propane heater was never turned on, and despite living in the trailer for well over a month, Ted Wire effectively starved to death. The vast majority of the emergency food sitting right next to him was left completely unopened. This scene presents a total collapse of standard survival behavior. Ted Wire died in a room where every tool for his salvation was within arm's reach, yet he left them all untouched for reasons we will never know. That leaves the 5th friend, Gary Mathias, who represents the final, lingering paradox of the entire case. Despite massive, exhaustive search efforts specifically targeting the areas surrounding the car and the trailer, authorities found absolutely zero physical evidence of Gary. No remains were found, no torn clothing, no confirmed sightings. He simply vanished. Gary's total absence acts as a permanent black hole in the investigation, ensuring that whatever really happened on that mountain remains locked in the wilderness forever. Over the last 4 decades, official investigations have floated numerous theories to explain the tragedy. They suggest the men got hopelessly lost, suffered from extreme weather-induced confusion, or fell victim to sudden panic. This maps the standard explanations: panic, getting lost, or weather. Individually, they might account for a wrong turn, but none reconcile the decision to walk away from a functional vehicle or sit in a trailer full of food until the body gives out. Today, the Plumas National Forest remains just as silent as it was that night in 1978. The seasons change, the snow melts and returns, but the mountains have kept their secrets. The devastating reality of this case comes down to a handful of dangerously simple variables: 5 close friends, 1 wrong road, and 1 working car. This case is a stark demonstration of how the human mind can abandon logic under pressure, overriding even the most basic survival instincts, until one walks willingly into the dark.